never know if it could change your life. Take a chance, you're neither wrong or right. You never know if you don't roll them dice. You better roll them dice. You never know if it could change your life.
Howdy, Rob.
Good afternoon, Matt. Happy high summer. It's the middle of July.
Midsommar?
Midsommar. I think we're past Midsommar, but it is
sure.
hot. It is bright. It is muggy. It is a high time. And
as we continue hot DM summer, we have a little sampling platter, a little tray of DM treats for you.
Little collection of treats for our treat boys and girls.
Yeah. So we thought, okay, we've read a million bazillion published adventures. Why don't we, see if we can glean any diamonds in the rough, any of our favorites from publications past. And so I have in front of me a stack of Dungeon magazines, and you've got a stack of a different.
I have a stack of Dragon magazines, which we have delved into a bunch. You all know that Matt and I love to go back to the archives in all sorts of ways, and I find every single one of these magazines to be a rich text, as people say.
Yes.
There's it's fascinating stuff. And some of it is fascinating in a shocking way, and some of it is fascinating in a genuinely interesting way. And we both pulled some adventures that I think you can learn from. They're dated.
So we have a whole six pack of adventures, 3 from each of us.
That's right.
From our respective magazines that we thought were interesting, good enough in some way to share with you, that we should suggest you should check these out, adapt them, steal from them, maybe even run them as they are.
Yeah, I think all of the ones that I've picked, and I'm certain the ones that Matt have picked, there's something to be borrowed. Each of these, I think, could be either spliced into a campaign or form sort of like the kernel of one. And I think it's really interesting to take a look at what the design motivations and priorities were when people were writing little modules in the mid 1980s, which is where most of mine come from. I think this is just really fascinating stuff, and I hope you do too. And I think there's a lot to be gleaned, a lot to be learned.
And while Dungeon and Dragon magazines can no longer be purchased for the most part, except from used book sailors, if you're a fan of Anarchy, they can be found online at the An Archive.
You should check it out. There's nowhere else to get these, so you don't have to feel bad. So check out, we'll put a link in the show notes. Before we jump in to our 3x3 6-pack of beautiful summer adventures, I want to remind you all that if you like listening to us talk and you want more of this, we have a Patreon at patreon.com/Dungeon Master of None. We have over a full day of additional podcast content. We have modules of our own. We have little treats, bonus content, cool stuff. Check it out. It's cool. You should check it out.
Yeah. And even if you don't want to join, thanks for listening. You can always just leave us a rating and review. All right. Shall we get on to the adventures?
On to the adventures.
Okay, Rob. Here's my first one, and I'm going to go, I think, backwards chronologically in time, so things, don't get too weird too quickly. And my first adventure that I have run twice, and I can recommend with a couple important caveats, is from Dungeon Magazine 115. This is Steel Shadows by Keith Baker. And I believe this is from 2004, contemporary, same time as the Surge or something like that. I don't know. I don't remember what was going on in the world. John Kerry was reporting for duty. This is a really fun adventure. It's set in Eberron, in the Sharn City of Towers, and it's a murder mystery.
Yeah, I think I've read this one before. It's been a while, but this is a good one. Matt, tell us what it's about.
Yeah, okay. And so spoilers, I think, for all of these adventures, but we'll tell you why they work or don't work, or why they're great and what you need to watch out for. In this one, a mysterious killer, some say the Jack in Irons, maybe a monster, a mythological creature, maybe a serial killer, has been killing Warforged, primarily workers, in a poor district in Sharn, and the player characters are recruited to solve this mystery and find the killer. And they're given a ton of like really interesting and useful suspects, and kind of the first part of the adventure is a pretty free-form exploration where they can go to sites of murders, places where Warforged live, a Warforged tavern, talk to people, get some leads, and investigate. And it concludes with the players, maybe in a less satisfying way, where obviously it could use some more clues. The players are forced to confront a Warforged artificer who's been basically building a Warforged Frankenstein out of the parts of those he's murdered. And of course, in the very noir way, the real villain is industrial military capitalism.
Right.
It's House Takanath, is a rogue member of House Takanath is behind it, nudging this in the correct direction. So there's kind of two fun layers to the mystery, and a fun boss fight, and a lot of fun investigation. Steel Shadows.
You know, I do remember this one, and it's awesome. It's been a long time since I've read it. But Eberron, because Keith Baker has such an emphasis on pulp and noir, has multiple of these really good murder mystery investigations. We've discussed at length how great these are and how hard they are to run. I remember this one being really, really good. There's lots of NPCs. There's lots of details. It's a pretty like robust adventure. And Eberron does this so well. It's such a great setting and system for it. I love this kind of thing. I think that this is a terrific adventure, and definitely something that would be, obviously, if you're running an Eberron campaign, something that's worth doing. But it's a classic of the genre. Yeah, this is a good pick, Matt. I remember reading this when it came out.
You can really adapt this one to any sort of city setting. If you're not using Warforged, this could obviously be made a little more gory by someone building maybe an actual Frankenstein. I will say, so the strengths of this adventure is that there are a ton of potential suspects and maybe other interesting NPCs that you can talk to, and like it has like great stats. So if you're doing any murder mystery, you can kind of just steal some of these NPCs for this. The big weakness is that there's kind of not a lot of clues that will point them to the correct direction, and they're kind of eventually just sort of railroaded that you have to go to this one place to find the thing. But this is easily fixed by just coming up with some more witnesses, some more clues, some more things that point them in the correct direction to kind of increase the likelihood that you don't have to use the as-written kind of Deus Ex Machina or Monster Ex Machina that will show up and make them go to the final location of the murderer.
There's a couple things that are interesting about this, and if I remember correctly, this is you already mentioned this, Matt, but like a great object lesson in like just a mystery, how to run it. You could borrow big chunks of this for NPCs or for investigation. You can take some of our advice on like how to add clues if you feel like Matt says, that it's not really like coming together the right way. I do think you could adapt this and make it not about Warforged, but I think sort of like what's interesting about it, what was interesting about it to me when I read it, was that the Warforged are kind of an underclass in Eberron, and so that sort of mirrors a lot of like, you know, real life serial killer behavior, and I think that's like a really interesting sort of flavor and texture to this adventure. So I think it would definitely work better and is more interesting with Eberron and the Warforged being the focus. But this is just sort of like a great murder mystery to begin with. It's got a lot to recommend it. This is a cool one.
It's also like a good adventure for if you want to set up a further plot of, if you enjoy having that villain that's like evil but like a little untouchable, or you know, the sort of person who is letting this deranged Warforged artificer kill people is just interested to see what happens. He wants to see what kind of new monster this artificer can create. And while he technically commits a crime in like sort of letting murder happen, but it's like impossible to prove that he knew it was going to happen. You can have this mastermind as a real like further plot villain, right? The players may be like, we got to figure out a way to take this person down, or if your players are just like, actually, we're just going to kill them, right? There's amazing, there's so many plot hooks you can do with that if you kill a wealthy member of a dragon-marked house.
It's also great. It's a classic, forget it, Jake. It's Chinatown moment. You've got this untouchable member of the nobility who's obviously doing crimes, and you can solve the mystery technically, right? You can stop the serial killer, you can put the juggernaut down, but like Matt said, the real villain is industrial capitalism and the wealthy.
And if you'd rather not go that way, there's a great hook to bring it back pulp. You can absolutely have an artifact in the final encounter that points them towards a mysterious first creator, right? There's a lot in Eberron about the magic of the giants, and maybe they invented like Warforged technology or technological magic, and you can send them off to explore a ruined dungeon of giants and get back to that pulp adventure if your players are not into the noir half.
Yeah.
Again, like the way I would run this is plot it out with like a little flow chart and then just add some more clues. There's kind of some of the things as it's written. It's like if players are like clever and are scrying or speaking with dead, the information they can gain is like pretty limited. Like give them even more information if they solve the mystery really easily. They feel great, and they probably won't. And more information will get them maybe where they need to go.
Okay, cool. That's Steel Shadows.
Keith Baker, Dungeon Magazine 115.
Okay, so for my first one, we're going in a radically different direction. As you might guess, the ones that I'm going to be pulling from Dragon are older, therefore mostly for AD&D, and they have some of the hallmarks of that. But one of the ones that I kind of liked that kind of tickled me is called Fedefensor. And it is from Dragon Magazine number 67, published in November of 1982. And Fedefensor is funny. There's a couple things I like about it. It's a short one, so this is kind of a cool one that if you want to just pick up and plop in your campaign, you could. But Fedefensor is the name of a Holy Avenger sword. And there's this, Matt, I'm going to show you, just like a whole page about the creation of Fedefensor, which is about half the length of the entire adventure. The rest of the adventure itself is just another like 2 to 3 pages. And none of that is very important. I think somebody was just very excited to write their story about the creation of Fedefensor, which has to do with the
long backstories. Sometimes bore me.
Yeah, it's incredibly boring. You can skip it, but it's funny. There's a high priest of a god, and he makes a deal with some elves, and there's an invasion by demons, and a holy paladin. And anyway, here's the fun bit, or part what I think is fun, is to keep his promise to the elves who created the Holy Avenger, this priest spirits it away to the astral plane. He and his body vanish to the astral plane where it is lost. And for reasons that are known only to your DM and your players, you have to go find it. It's a Holy Avenger sword, so whatever, just go do it. It's Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. I don't have to tell you how to do it. Go get a magic sword. Anyway, take a look at this nifty art, Matt. I'm gonna put this on the show notes somehow. I want everyone to see this.
Oh, that is so cool. It's an Astral Sea space station.
Yeah. So basically, this adventure is your players have to go to the astral plane to find this missing Holy Avenger sword, Fedefensor, which is kept in a Githyanki outpost. And there's it's on like a big like chunk of floating rock. It looks kind of like a jack from from Jack's,
yeah, that classic game we love.
Classic game that we all love. And there's really like not a ton here. It's basically just like one big dungeon, but it's a neat dungeon with a bunch of like named and interesting Githyanki NPCs. And I think that it's kind of self-contained, but I think the map is neat. I think the art is neat. I think the concept is kind of cool. I would have liked it to be twice as long, a little bit more interesting, but part of why I wanted to include it is because I think that it would be a great thing to build from. It's got a neat little, piece of art.
Right. You can take the Holy Adventurer's Sword, replace it with
anything.
whatever MacGuffin you want in your campaign, or just a magic item that your players want.
Right.
It is okay to, at a high level campaign, to be like, here's a powerful magic sword. Why don't you want to go? Do you want to go get it?
Yeah. So I like again, it's a relatively simple layout of the map, but I like it. I think it's a pretty well designed dungeon, pretty tough for players of the appropriate level. And yeah, I found myself reading this and being like, yeah, I could work with this. I think this is cool. So if you for example enjoyed a little Baldur's Gate 3, if you're interested in an astral plane adventure, if you just want to throw in a random jaunt to an outpost in the astral plane, I think this one is neat. I think you could easily adapt it to any sort of other adventure, throw anything you want where the Holy Avenger is, and make something from it. I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah, you can absolutely, if this is a great dungeon layout, that if you want to reduce the number of enemies, like make it into like a clean one-shot, one-session jaunt to the astral plane. However, if you want to put lots of monsters here and maybe some clues to other schemes of the Githyanki, right, it could absolutely be the launching point for a little bit longer arc in a campaign.
Yeah, it's real short. You check it out. Dragon number 67, Ascenceur. Good thing to sort of, stand alone or build from for an astral plane adventure. I thought, if nothing else, that it had a cool piece of art, cool concept, cool map. There's a lot of duds in Dragon magazine. I read through a bunch of adventures, and a lot of them are pretty dull. So even though it's kind of brief, I thought that it had a lot more inspiration, a lot more charm to it than some of the others. So check it out.
This is a larger point, Rob. If you're getting to high levels in D&D and you haven't done an extra planar jaunt,
excellent point.
What are you doing?
What are you even doing with yourself?
Right. Like the whole game is like you really need to get wacky with it towards the end. And if you're not sending your players to really fantastical locations, play a different system. Okay, Rob, I'm also moving backwards in time, but interestingly, not as far back as this. So this is from Dungeon Magazine, issue 29.
Oh, far back.
So that's spring, May, June 1991. And this adventure is by Willie Walsh, Mightier Than the Sword.
Ooh.
And it's a really low-level adventure, kind of like Steel Shadows, and it is a second mystery that I've got from you, Rob. And I love this adventure because if you want to run like a really low magic system, if you were running a medieval game with no magic at all, this one would be great. If you're running Dungeons and Dragons, this one would be great. Okay, Rob, are you ready for the plot overview of this? Because it's going to blow your socks off.
I cannot wait. This one, unlike Steel Shadows, I am not at all familiar with this. So tell me about Mightier Than the Sword.
Okay, so the players are recruited by two rival factions at the same time from the next town over, a very, very small town that's primary export is quills for writing, right?
All right.
And so there's quill makers, there's ink makers in the town, and there's goose growers, people who grow geese to harvest their feathers.
Would be geese herders, Matt?
Geese herders, right? Yeah. No, I don't know how you make geese, Rob. And the plot is that someone in the town a couple months ago has invented a steel nib for pins. Thus eliminating the need.
I love this. Sorry.
The need for geese feathers. And this has revolutionized and polarized the town, as some people are like, wow, this pin is way better. We can sell a lot of these. We can reformulate our industry. Other people, maybe the people who make geese or herd geese, are understandably upset that the fact that, okay, maybe our industry might be eclipsed. So the town on many, there are many different NPCs and many different factions, has split along lines over what to do with this new technology. The reason the players are needed to be recruited is that someone has murdered the inventor. And the town is just simply too polarized to trust anyone to do a objective investigation. And so the players are recruited into this town full of kind of silly Renaissance politics among these different guilds, all involved in the manufacture of one of geese quills for writing. And the players have to conduct a murder mystery. Now, the players are adventurers. They've got the force of arms and magic on their side, and this will help them with their investigation. The big flaw here is that the murder, like, kind of doesn't have too much to do with this whole controversy. It's kind of just like there's a jealous relative. You could switch this up in that you're given a whole list of potential suspects. And if you want to take some tips from our Brindlewood Bay episode, you could maybe even leave the murder ambiguous until the players decide who it is.
This is terrific. I love some petty Renaissance politics, guild disagreements. This is amazing. What a great idea for an adventure. I think this is so good. You could also, like, this just like core idea of, like, you know, somebody has created a technology to make obsolete a classic of the medieval economy, like, you know, this could be about buggy whip makers. This is such a good idea. I love this.
And even here's like the adventure emphasizes this from the beginning, from the hook, when the two messengers from the two factions of the town's like council arrive to try and recruit the player characters. You're encouraged to give them two handouts, one handwritten with fine penmanship, another maybe write it with like a ballpoint pen and more clearly but like less beautiful, and to sort of present these two factions on either side. And it's there's a delightful cast of NPCs that you can talk to in the town. It's pretty great. Even the random encounters on the way there. There's a talking. You can meet a hedgehog, and you know the person's like, it even includes some notes on what the hedgehog's opinions are on the quills. Neutral. The hedgehog doesn't care as long as people don't start using hedgehog quills.
It occurs to me that if you are somebody who's like an enthusiast for calligraphy or penmanship, if you are somebody who likes fountain pens or different types of pens, you have an opportunity here to really like have a great time with handouts and notes and things. That would be a lot of fun if that's kind of something that you're into or want to tinker around with.
Right. Great NPCs like Mern Grundle, the dwarf steel maker and innkeeper. There's a great rumor table. There's a couple events you can throw at the players, like a little riot between the two factions. It is, if you're reading it, it suffers from that sort of AD&D like layout style and kind of adventure formatting. There's like real no flow chart, but if you read through the adventure in detail and kind of make your own, add some clues about the murderer, maybe add some potential. The murderer could use a little bit of motives that might connect him to some of the other factions in town. I think if you add that, you have like a real top 10 mystery on your hands.
Yeah, I'm looking at it, and it's just a lot of block of texts, but otherwise, I love the idea.
Yeah. One of the fun things that I really like about this adventure is that kind of goes against our advice on the last one with the astral planes, but like for low level play, like there's no magic involved here as far as I remember. Like the murderer didn't use a magic weapon or a potion or a scroll of passwall to commit the murder. None of the people in this like shitty quill manufacturing town have any like magical abilities that are that, there's a couple magic weapons lying here and there. It's AD&D. It's all very mundane, but it's also well done, that especially when you throw your adventurers in with magic powers and they can speak with dead and speak with animals and things like that, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Very cool. Great pick. This is a delight to me. I'm gonna steal, if nothing else, the concept, but maybe whole chunks of this. This is such a good idea.
Dungeon Magazine, issue 29, Willie Walsh, Mightier Than the Sword.
All right. The next one that I have for us is from Dragon Magazine number 50 from June of 1981. So early. And this one is called The Chapel of Silence by Molly Plants. So here's the cool thing about Chapel of Silence. Chapel of Silence is the best basic D&D module from International Dungeon Design Contest number 2.
Ooh, okay.
There's actually kind of like a lot that I like about this, but so let me tell you sort of the background. Is there's this noble couple that serves the good gods, and they live a good life, and everyone loves them, and they die of old age, and they are bonded and happy, and they have this chapel that is built to them, Owen and Andrea. But over time, their chapel becomes infested by the dark god who is trying to usurp their power, and he has a vampire priest, and so this chapel has become corrupted. Classic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Your players are supposed to sort of like come across this chapel that's old, nobody knows what it's about, rest there, and receive a vision of Lady Andrea, who is asking for their help, and they are supposed to delve into the Chapel of Silence. So,
okay, that's a classic hook, a dream or something like that. There's no reason you have to wait for your players to sleep in the chapel to give them this. You can just this is a great, like, if you're doing a exploration adventure or like a hex crawl, put this chapel somewhere and then give them that dream, and then if they ever spy the chapel, they'll be like, hey, that's the chapel from my dream 2 sessions ago. Let's go in there.
This was exactly my suggestion. This would be perfect to drop into a hex crawl anywhere. And I like the idea of like they rest here to like, and then have the dream, but also Matt's correct. They could have the dream and then it's maybe even more fun when they're like, hang on, I recognize that chapel. So there's a couple things that I like about this. One is I think the map's pretty neat. It's really just like 2 layouts. There's each level is sort of like alternating, just sort of like this star shape, and there's a bunch of stuff in the alcoves. It's a little confusing, but it's kind of like a neat, vertical up and down adventure. But something really neat happens when they reach level 4 and they encounter the vampire priest. So they fight the vampire. Here's a little bit. Let me read from the module for you. The priest is a true vampire. He can be conquered by magical means and an approximately worded wish. They can find a ring of wish in this adventure. And which can eliminate this threat to the party's success. The priest will not be on his guard against party members until an attack has actually begun. Blah, blah, blah. He charms them, and they find this chapel, this altar down below. Once the party searches the room, assuming they defeat the vampire, they'll find nothing of value until they draw back the black curtain. They will then be confronted by a representation of the dark god, which is so lifelike and so horrible that they will be struck dumb by terror. No character will be able to speak or communicate by vocal sound in any way whatsoever for the rest of the adventure. Just as the characters are struck dumb, so should the players be. And this is the really neat thing about the adventure. For the rest of the adventure, the Dungeon Master should allow no vocal communication between players. In many instances, this will make it necessary for the DM to give descriptions or instructions to players in secret. At other times, a caller for the DM may be asked to give information vocally to the DM out of earshot of other players, so the DM will know precisely what the players are intending to do, etc., etc., etc. No characters or players should be allowed to communicate with each other except by gestures or pictures. So,
I think that's super cool. it requires you to definitely have like a little map of where things are so people can move, see where they're moving and stuff like that. But if your players are okay with this, especially like if one of them spent the like 5 gold or whatever to have pen and paper,
Right.
and
They actually
now
wrote
they're the
down
most
like
important,
journal and charcoal in their inventory or whatever. Yeah. So I mean it's a little bit of a gimmick, but I actually kind of think it's neat. I also sort of think that it's cool that it's not really like, it's hinted at obviously in the title, but it's not it's not obvious like what's going to happen. Obviously this could be unpleasant.
Right. I did not guess Chapel of Silence had a like silence effect on it.
This could be like unpleasant for some of your players in certain circumstances, but if they're up for it, I think this could be really fun. They're already halfway through the adventure, so like, it's probably going to be like an hour where they're not allowed to talk to each other. I think it'd be like a fun, cool challenge. You go down to the bottom, you find a bunch of skeletons that are guarding the tomb of Andrea and Owen. There's this cool little thing where there's these paintings of the good gods throughout the chapel, and if light hits their eyes, they come to life. Some of them are bad, some of them are good, but there's some down at the bottom. If the players are paying attention, they can summon these good gods to fight alongside them. Once they put Andrea and Owen back to rest, they can speak again, and there's all this, here's what happens, and everybody is hunky-dory. They get some cool loot. But I thought it was a very clever adventure. Like, it's a neat classic
So do
start.
they need to put the ghosts to rest in order to be able to speak,
Yes.
in order to use the spell to put the vampire down?
Yes, they need...
Because they're low-level party. Fighting a vampire is probably a bad idea.
Yes. Actually, hang on. Let me double-check.
Just making sure I follow the logic of the module, because that's kind of a neat, like, it's not too many steps that your players are going to get tripped up. But if they know that, like, okay, we have a magic ring, but none of us can talk, how do we get the talking? Oh, they know that, like, the silence is caused by this unresting dead that they have to fix.
Yeah, so in order to speak again, and in order to put an end to the threat, they have to put Owen and Andrea to rest, at which point they receive help both from like the good gods, and I think there's a hermit who is an old priest in the dungeon. But yeah, before they can finish everything off, they have to make it down to the bottom and complete this act to put things to right. I think that this works really well as is. Like I said, I think it would be super awesome. It's just like a random hex encounter. I also think it would be pretty cool as like part of something greater. The way that it's written, there's just like the good gods and the dark god, which I think is just meant to be sort of generic. You could slap any deity or power you want on that. And I think this one's really neat.
Is Shar the dark god?
Shar is not the dark god.
Shar's
Confusing.
the name of the priest.
Shar is the name of the hermit. I don't... Yeah.
Okay, all right. This might be before... No, this is not before Forgotten Realms, but almost. Okay.
I think...
It's so funny going back to these old Dungeons and Dragon where there's all these letters where it's like, this Forgotten Realms that was, published just last year. Man, it's sure real interesting. I'd love to see more of that.
I know.
Like...
but yeah,
those nerds saw the future. There's more Forgotten Realms than you could ever want now.
But I don't know what happened to Molly Plants from Morgantown, West Virginia, but this was a good one. Great adventure. I thought this was a lot of fun.
It's a great idea. If you were running the gimmick part with your players, like, what's your first, I guess, instinct for how to, get consent and make sure everyone's like, actually, this is a fun gimmick, as opposed to, I'm not sure I want to do this?
That's a good question. I mean, I can think of two ways of doing this. I can think of one, like when you start the adventure, you can say, hey, about halfway through, I'm going to try something a little bit different. I just want to like prepare you that like it's going to be a little bit weird, but I think we'll all have fun. So just keep your eyes out, keep your heads up and try to roll with it. And
then when you get to the actual thing, explain the ground rules and be like, is everyone okay with this? It's fine. And then be like, hey, also we'll take a break whenever anyone wants, if they like need to like go talk about other things just to relax from.
Yeah, that was going to be my second suggestion. You can also just spring it on them and be like, hey, so here's the deal. You're not supposed to talk. Are we all cool with that? do you want to take a quick break to sort of like talk this through, and then we will, cut off communication? Or if they're not cool with that, be like, that's fine. We'll just, we'll model this some other way.
Right, yeah, you could easily, I like the idea of the players themselves not talking and like communicating to you and them each other gestures. If like people are not cool with that, you can just go with, okay, well, there's still a magical effect of silence here. Y'all can talk and describe your character's actions, but you shouldn't be talking in your character's voice. You should only convey information that your character could convey with gestures. You can describe those gestures, but yeah.
I think obviously the gimmick is fun. That's why I picked it. Not everybody.
I agree.
Not everyone will. I think it would still be fun if it was just like your characters can't talk, so you need to describe like what they're doing, and yeah, you can't speak in your character's voice. Either way, I think this is kind of like a neat little adventure. A lot of fun to drop. Again, I'm just like, this just feels like perfectly made for a hex crawl. I would put this in Kingmaker in a heartbeat. You could throw it in anywhere.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, I thought there was a lot here, a lot that you could adapt to make it part of a bigger plot. I was not expecting to find anything that I was genuinely impressed by, but this was real clever. I thought it was a cool idea.
I mean, as is the case with all of these old modules, this one would be an absolute great one to run using Errant or Shadow Dark or Labyrinth Lord or something like that.
Custom made for OSR. But yeah, you could do it in any
D. It is from
sorry.
the old school.
Yeah. Sorry. Just OS. Yeah. OS. But yeah, this is very easy to do in Shadow Dark or Dungeon Lord or anything. Yeah.
I like this one, and I'm going to read through it just to, even having a single room, like a big room or like one wing of a dungeon with this, if you don't want to commit to the whole thing, is like a great idea. Just like one room where there's a monster and a puzzle and some things to investigate and a trap where no one can talk because there's magical silence is like that's a fun thing to do.
Actually,
and then to try out.
That's a great point. This would also work really well as part of a mega dungeon. Like this is just like one subsection of a mega dungeon would be just like a great bit.
All right. Well, we've got 2 of yours. We've got 2 of mine. On to our
final adventures.
Okay, let's crack open the last 2. So going back in time, this one is from Dungeon Magazine number 18, which is still forwards in time from Rob's. So Dungeon Magazine number 18. This is July 1989. Came out a month or 2 after a very popular film. I'm sure you'll be able to guess which one. I think Rob has played this and he did not like it. Maybe. I don't remember exactly. This is Paul Hancock's Chad Ranther's Bane, which is a title that does not give you a lot of information, but it's by Paul Hancock. It's beautifully illustrated by Janelle Jacquez. Rest in peace, rest in power. And it is essentially Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
I did hate this one.
for a dungeon. Rob hated it, but I loved it. I've run it twice.
I was not in the right headspace for this adventure, and I would enjoy it more. Yeah, it's the borrowers. It's
the borrowers.
It's Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. That's right. Yeah, this one. No,
this is also a hex scroll one. There's a way station with a overgrown garden and a little house and stables that if the players enter after 3 turns or like 30 minutes, they will shrink down to just a couple inches in size. The garden and house are filled with all kinds of factions, from natural creatures like ants that are and rats and a cat that are a challenge to players, to other humanoids that have also been magically shrunk. The players have to navigate these factions and the wilderness of the garden to destroy the artifact that caused everyone to shrink and therefore escape. That's the thing. Rob, what was your initial reactions and why were they bad? And do you reconsider? It's fine if you don't.
I mean, I was younger and I was not in the mood for being shrunk down to tiny size and fighting mice. However, I also remember it being hard. I remember that we were struggling. Our party was struggling with this adventure, and that was undignified and unpleasant for me. But of course, I have reconsidered. This is a funny gimmick and it's a delight. And there is like a bunch of like great illustrations in here. I do remember this one, and
so I think why it it works better than just like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids is that it is like very open-ended, right? In that you're free to navigate through this however you can. There are many clues along the way that will point your players towards the artifact. And then the like final kind of conclusion is just like, can you figure out how to smash a big glass orb as a couple inch players? And, you know, I love the module just kind of says, yeah, whatever plan, if it's pretty good, should work for the players, you know. Let them be creative. What a great ending for a published module.
I mean, Matt, part of the problem with this was that, you know, it was the same thing every time you tried to run us through any like classic Gygaxian adventure, was that our group was just like not very good at that. We were just not outside the box thinkers. We were not problem solvers. We were there just to.
Well, maybe I wasn't as good in practice as a DM because I ran it maybe 7 or 8 years later, and I think everyone had a pretty great time. I introduced a tribe of, or a faction of Sparrow Riders. One of my players decided to stay and become king of the Sparrow Riders and roll up a new character. And he became like a sidekick for his new character that like lived on his shoulder.
That's amazing. But yeah, I love the idea now. And I remember revisiting it. Again, God, we were teenagers, man. anything that I thought when I was a teenager is inadmissible in any modern context. But yeah, it's
are there things that you think are interesting about?
Yeah, of course I think there's things that are interesting. I mean, now
okay,
I think
let's hear
now I think the concept is interesting. You know, it's just a fun idea. The same reason that like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids is fun. You can ride ants and fight wasps and meet other tiny people, and you know, climbing down a table is a massive undertaking, and you know, you've meet a. You know, I'm just like throwing shit out there. Like you know, you meet a guy who lives in an overturned tankard. Like it's just like, yeah, it's just
right. It's a strong wind is dangerous, but also falling damage is less.
Yeah.
There's some like clever little rules here. I think a couple highlights for me is there's a cowardly bard who lives in a helmet. The helmet is a major artifact. There's in fact many major artifacts scattered throughout the garden that your players will be like, wow, I wish we were big and could get these. There's a cat named Dragon that lives under the front stoop.
I don't know that we got
deadly.
to the cat named Dragon because that's
no. You went through a different part of the thing. That's fine.
Funny. That's a very funny joke. I think that's clever because it's a dragon. Anyway, the thing is like now if I were losing a fight to like horse-sized mice, that would be funny. But at the time I was not having a good time losing to to these mice.
One of the fun things is like if your players bring a horse there, avoiding getting stepped on by your own horse could be an interesting challenge.
Yeah.
The module does have a number of weak points in that the backstory is not easily conveyed through play. However, if the players go in the most likely direction in this freeform exploration, the kind of evil mastermind who stole all these artifacts and unknowingly stole the one that shrinks everyone, a sphere of
diminution. I'm sorry, I'm seeing this here at the
diminution.
Sphere of diminution.
We'll basically tell the players, hey, I think it's over here. Go destroy this for me, which is, I think, a fine way. But you should have basically every other faction have heard of this glowing orb hidden high in the fountain.
Revisiting it, I think it's cool because you using your person brains can be like, okay, obviously this is all here for you, but anything you can think of that might occur or be involved with being turned into a tiny sized person in a big house. There's so much you could do here. You could add or include of your own interest. I think this is a very variable adventure with lots of opportunity for innovation on your part as GM.
Right. You can have one of the suggestions is to have some orcs or some other adventurers arrive. You could have the players try and signal them. They could also, of course, will again be turned small and then no longer be able to help you. There's a lot of fodder for creative thinking. I think the second time I ran it, some of the players were like, let's let's live here forever,
Yeah.
which is also fine. I think in another game, players were just like made it a protective enclave in the adventure they were building to protect all these diminished people who have lived here for generations. I would say go easy on if you're considering running it, add way more clues pointing you towards where the orb is. There's a couple like random things that are mentioned, like the sparrow riders that live in the woods that are descendants of diminished people, that I think I expanded greatly. I kind of like cut out the evil gnomes that are like burning everything. Just didn't make a lot of sense or didn't seem like a fun opportunity. But yeah, make more of the incredibly deadly encounters, like a weasel, giant fish, birds, hawks, cats, but make them where obviously you don't have to fight these things to the death, that these things are easily distracted or deterred because they're just animals.
I mean, this is silly, but like I would throw in a faction of awakened mice. Like give yourself like a little like Redwall team. Like have fun with it. You can do anything you want here. Like this is a very like deadly adventure, but it's also like
right.
It's kind
There are
of fun.
some wild elves you could absolutely that are led by druids. You could absolutely have them be all dead, right? Their civilization of tiny wild elves is passed on, and replace them with awakened mice that the druid awakens so that they might continue their inhabitants of the raspberry bushes, which they trade to the humans, and the humans make wine and sell that to the rest of the garden.
Yeah, no, just because I didn't like this when I was younger does not mean there's anything wrong with it. It is a bit cheeky. It is a very difficult adventure, which, can be undignified if you're like, well, I'm tiny and I'm getting destroyed by ants, but it's fun.
It's a fun wilderness exploration. There's a lot of fun NPCs. It absolutely could use like a little faction chart that you should make as you read through it. It's like, okay, the halflings trade with the humans trade with the elves. The elves are at a war with the ants, this kind of thing. The goblins hate everyone. Kind of needs to be laid out, including like what people want, but that can be done through reading the module.
Good pick. I forgot that this one was from Dungeon. I would definitely recommend that you all check this out. This one's a fun one. It's a classic of the genre.
Yeah, this is Chad Ranther's Bane. Terrible title. From Dungeon, number 18 by Paul Hancock and illustrated by Janelle Jacques.
All right. My final adventure is from Dragon Magazine number 100 from August of 1985. And it is called The City Beyond the Gate by Robert Schrock.
My guess for your last one was I was going to say it was going to be The Dancing Hut.
Oh,
but,
well, this is related to The Dancing Hut. So,
okay,
yeah.
All right.
Matt has already figured out what's going on. Maybe you all will enjoy my slow roll towards the reveal. But yeah, so here's how this adventure is presented. Is your players are looking for the Mace of St. Cuthbert. And again, just like Ascenceur, it's not important why. The adventure just sort of assumes that your players are going to want to find a magical mace, which they probably will. You're given like two like very brief potential hooks. Either they find information about the mace, or a powerful priest in exchange for like a resurrection spell asks them to find it. And so they find out that the Mace of St. Cuthbert is through a gate on an island. They've got to go to this island, the Gate Island. There's a bunch of bullshit. There's some demons, whatever, who cares, doesn't matter. And they can find the gate. And so they step through this gate. This is gate in italics. This is a gate to another dimension, in case it's not clear. So here's what happens when they go through the gate. Once beyond the gate, the party members will find themselves on a wooded isle in a small lake with a lightly wooded shores. Beyond the young trees on the lake shore can be seen open fields in which there seems to be scattered public recreational activity. The characters have gated in on a major island in the boating lake of Battersea Park, London, south of the Thames River, and one of the many parks in the city. The party will exit the gate through an arch exactly like the one on Gate Island, except this one has a small plaque on one side that reads, "Sculpture donated by the Honorable Edward Cuthbert, 1932.
Yes.
Um,
And of course, Saint Cuthbert is a real
It's a
saint,
real saint,
right?
yes.
Stolen from our world and
Yeah.
inserted to Greyhawk. So it makes sense that you got to go back to his plane of origin.
That's right. You got to go back to jolly
Okay.
old London. So the module says the London time is 9 a.m. June 1st, 1985, or current time when this scenario is played out. So yeah, you're in London. Cheeky, right? Immediately the players encounter an urchin who is being accosted by a bobby. Everything that I've read to you is preceded by like 10 pages of like modern technology and how to model it, which it was, I think, first
Right.
introduced in like Dancing Hut, which is a previous adventure about Baba Yaga. Here's some fun
Right.
charts I'm going to show Matt, and we'll also include in the show notes. Look at this. This is
how you get around and Baba Yaga. Oh, mopeds and stuff like that.
Mopeds and-
Okay. What time period is this one?
So this
set
is supposed to be modern day. So it says 1985 or
Okay.
present or whenever you're running the game.
I think still setting it in 1985 is great. You can have like London punks and
Yes,
stuff
exactly.
like that. Margaret Thatcher. You can kill Margaret Thatcher.
Margaret Thatcher. There's a limited map of London. There's, information on like what the players do if they like wander into the Battersea Power Station. There's descriptions of like a bunch of different buildings, but it's assumed they're going to stay basically sort of like within the local part of London. And of course, the Mace of St. Cuthbert is kept in the Victoria and Albert Museum. Matt, have you ever been to this museum?
No, I haven't.
I also haven't, which is a shame. I've been to London a lot, and I have been to many museums. I have not been to this one. It's got some like Raphaels, some French Renaissance furniture, a bunch of like manuscripts. Like it's a good museum.
I love your player. The idea of your players cutting one of these out of their frame, stuffing it in their bag of holding, and be like, "This is worth 5 gold."
Anyway, the Mace of St. Cuthbert is kept in a room with a bunch of like other like Renaissance and medieval weapons, and it is obvious like which one it is because it's has no rust or any age. So yeah, it's really like kind of a silly gimmick. I mean, it's an incredibly silly gimmick, but it's funny. Your players have to basically like make it through London without like being accosted by the police. There's also like there's a bunch of random tables. They can encounter terrorists and like a bunch of like
IRA.
Unspecified, but yeah, probably they probably
Okay.
are meant to be IRA terrorists.
I mean,
Yeah,
I think this is fun, especially you should, if you were running this or if I was running this, I would give the players like the benefit of the doubt, like for every social encounter, right? If the police show up or people are like, who are you? They're like, oh, are you with I don't know, the Renaissance Fair, or are you part of reenactors? Are you doing a TV show? Are you in Monty Python? That kind of thing.
right.
Like give them a way to sort of talk themselves out of it, at least at first.
Yeah, I mean this is depends on your players like how adeptly they will deal with being fish out of water like this. But yeah, it's funny. You can't they obviously can't just like bludgeon their way to where they're going. There are lots more cops and they have guns and
Right.
because they're AD&D players, they have spells that they have memorized, but they can't get new spells. So even if they're running around casting powerful magics, they will run out eventually. And so yeah, so they have
Right. You can't get new spells here on this plane. Is that a rule that's written in the module?
That's an AD&D
Okay.
rule, yes.
Okay. All right. That's fun. I mean, this is really a nice preview for Reign of Winter.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Like,
speaking of
Reign of Winter
the
does this.
Dancing Hut and
Does this. I don't want to say better, but like more thoroughly. They make a whole, rather than just like sort of like a one-off gimmick. It's a whole section of the campaign. But yeah, it's clever. I think that it requires your players to do a little bit of outside the box thinking. it's a fun little side adventure, and yeah, it's just cheeky bit. You're in London. You're a bunch of paladins and shit. You have to go steal the mace of Saint Cuthbert from the Victoria and Albert Museum. It's just
the entire challenge is what you have to get across town, break into a not very well protected museum, and then get back without getting run over by a car.
Essentially,
like
or being like the cops being like, "What are you doing?" or someone else like causing problems. There are thieves, and there are, like I said, terrorists, and this is a AD&D module, so they're like, make sure they have a big fight with somebody before they get back through the gate. But you know,
if you want to spice it up, I would say this sounds like a great opportunity for to put an agent of Ayuz, the evil demigod, or Vecna, one of the traditional enemies of Saint Cuthbert in Greyhawk, that is basically been living in London in disguise,
that's a good one.
and like just to make sure no good heroes ever get this mace back from London to Greyhawk.
I mean, if you were interested in this idea, like, this is a critical part of the second book of the his Dark Materials series, Subtle Knife. Lyra has to go with Will to London and get some shit to modern London from her steampunk magic London, and it's one of this is great in the books, and it's actually also great in the TV show, which is of middling quality. But it's a similar concept: fish out of water, magical people in a regular London. I think it's a fun idea. I think London as a city works particularly well for this type of crossover, just because it has such, obviously, like, long history, and also like
it's already whimsical. Halfway to a fantasy city. There's a queen and a king live there.
There's a palace. So I think this is fun. Read it. It's kind of silly. It's also like, if you ever wanted to put, I don't know, if you were interested in reading way too many thoughts on like modern technology in a fantasy setting, this is the module for you.
Yeah, I'll skip over that part, but I will take the layout of the museum.
That is also part of the fun.
This is also something you probably Google and get a much better map of today. Yeah. I mean, the fun thing about stealing something like this, or for any role-playing game where you're playing in the real world, is that real-world maps are perfect, right? You can use all of our fancy maps that are available on your phone and on computer to make something to hand to your players. I also see this is the issue with the rules for Dragon Chess, which is one of the worst chess variants ever invented. Thank you for going with me on this tour through our old magazines. Listen, I think one of the things is, like, most of the adventures and things published in Dungeons and Dragons magazine are not winners.
Most of them are bad.
The best adventures tend to get, their own book and stuff like that. However, man, there are some real gems here. And I'm glad we found some that, without having to go to some of the ones that have already been republished in real books, like personal favorite of mine, The Styes. Chad Ranther's Bane, Steel Shadows, and Mightier Than the Sword. Check them out for me. Check out Rob's too.
Ascenceur, Chapel of Silence, City Beyond the Gate. We'll include lots of links in the show notes, so check those out. If you liked this,
steal from them, have fun.
Have fun. Yeah. If you like this, email us at dmofnone@gmail.com. You can add us on Twitter at dmofnone.
You can also, in the show notes, click a link and join our Discord. Discuss the episodes, GM advice, much more with us.
Thanks for listening, everybody, and keep rolling them dice.
You better roll them dice. You never know if it could change your life. Take a chance, you're neither wrong or right. You never know if you don't roll them dice. You better roll them dice. You never know if it could change your life. Take a chance.